All right, so I think I fixed the sound, which is kind of exciting. This video is the first part of 7.4, which is adding and subtracting rational functions. I'm going to go through everything besides complex fractions, and then complex fractions is going to be in another video. So this one, I'm just going to do 3 examples. The first example that I have for you is just adding and subtracting, just a plain fraction here. With numbers. And if you remember from middle school, when you have a fraction with unlike denominators, the first thing that you have to do is make your denominators the same. And we do this by finding the least common multiple of the denominators, and we call it a least common denominator. I annotate it as LCD. And so what we need to do is we need to find the least common multiple of 3 and 5. And because you all passed 7th grade math, you understand that that number is 15. So what we need to do is we need to make our denominator a 15. And so we look at our first fraction, which is 2/3, and we say, self, what would make that denominator 15? And you would say, well, if you multiply by 5, that denominator would be 15. But because we can't change our fraction, what we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. So we're going to take the top and the bottom and multiply it by 5. For the second fraction, we're going to do kind of the same thing here. We've got 4/5, and we have to ask ourselves, what would make that denominator 15? And this time, we need to multiply the denominator by 3. However, what we do to the bottom, we must do to the top, so we have to multiply the top by 3 as well. Okay? And then what we have to do here is now we multiply across. So then we say, okay, well, 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 4 times 3, which is 12, over 5 times 3, which is 15. Now we have like denominators, and when we have like denominators, we can just add across the top. So 10 plus 12 is 22. The denominator stays the same. You do not add those denominators to be 30. They just stay 15. You cannot reduce. 22 and 15 do not have any like multiples, so that is all you can do. Okay, that was middle school. Now we're on to Algebra 2, and as you know, it gets a lot more difficult here. But the basic concepts are still there. We still need to find the least common multiple of the denominators. So here's what I like to do. I like to first rewrite it, okay? And I like to factor the denominator. And this one's almost all the way factored. The only thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to factor this 6 here. And I'm going to make this 6 2 times 3. So basically, I'm going to take it and break it down into prime numbers. Okay? Same thing. We haven't done anything. We've just broken it down and written it differently. The same thing's going to happen over here. I'm just going to rewrite 2x as 2 times x. Okay? I just broke it down because now it's easier to see. Okay, well, what is the least common multiple of these denominators? And what we're going to do is we're going to take the highest power of each factor in the denominator. So here's what this means. You're going to look at the 2 in this first one and say, okay, what is the highest power that we have in all of our denominators? Well, we've got 1, 2 here and 1, 2 here. So our least common denominator has to be, we have to have a 2 in it. Okay? Then we move on. We say, okay, well, now we've got a 3. So we have to have a 3 somewhere. Even though there's not a 3 over there, that doesn't matter. We still have to have one. Okay? And then we look at, all right, an x plus 3. Is there any higher power over here? No. So we just need 1x plus 3. All right, we move over to the other denominator. We already have the 2. Okay? So we've already taken care of that one, but we still have this x here that we need to take care of. So our least common denominator here is 2 times 3, which is 6. I'm going to pull this x out in front to be here, and then make it x plus 3. Okay, that's our least common denominator. So now we need to go back to our fraction here, and we need to ask ourselves, well, we've got the 2 and the 3, which is the 6, and we've got the x plus 3. So we've got all those. The only thing we're missing is the x in this first one. So we're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by an x in the first fraction. In the second fraction, we already have taken care of the 2, so that's good. We have the x, which is good. So we're missing the 3, and we're missing the x plus 3. So we're going to multiply the second fraction by 3 times x plus 3. And what you got to remember is what you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. Okay? Now we need to multiply across. So x times 5 is just 5x. Down here, all this becomes our least common denominator, which is 6x times x plus 3 minus. Now here's where it gets kind of tricky. I'm just going to pull this 3 out in the front here. So I'm going to pull it as 3 times, I'm going to leave this as x minus 4, and then I'm going to leave this as x plus 3, all divided by 6x times x plus 3. Okay. Now we've got common denominators, so we can just combine them all into one fraction. I'm going to combine it as 5x minus 3 times x minus 4 times x plus 3, all over our least common denominator, which is 6x times x plus 3. Okay? Now what you have to do, and what you're really going to hate me for, is now we need to FOIL this part right here. We need to simplify this numerator. We can't leave it like this, okay? We can leave the 5x as just a 5x, but this negative 3 here, we need to multiply the negative 3, the x minus 4, and the x plus 3. I'm going to deal with this quantity first, okay? So I've got 5x minus, I'm going to leave the 3 on the outside for now. Okay, I'm going to FOIL. X times x is just x squared. X times a 3 is a plus 3x. A negative 4 times an x is a minus 4x. A negative 4 times a 3 is a minus 12. Close my parentheses. And I'm still over 6x times x plus 3. All right. Now I'm going to distribute. Actually, I'm going to simplify this first. Let's simplify that, because we can combine some like terms here. We still have the 5x minus 3, x squared. 3x minus 4x is a negative x minus 12, all divided by 6x times x plus 3. Okay. Now I'm going to distribute that negative 3. So now I'm going to leave the 5x on the outside. Negative 3 times x squared is a minus 3x squared. Negative 3 times a negative x is a plus 3x. Negative 3 times a negative 12 is a positive 36, all over 6x times x plus 3. Okay. Final step, combine like terms here. So the minus 3x squared doesn't have any friends, so it's just going to stay a minus 3x squared. We can combine the 5x and the plus 3x to be a plus 8x. And then we still got this plus 36 out on the end. And we're going to keep it over our denominator, which is 6x times x plus 3. Now, in some cases, you will be able to factor the numerator, and these might cancel. You might be able to factor so that we've got some cancellations happening, but we don't in this case. So this is our final answer. We cannot factor, we cannot simplify anything, but we do need to make some restrictions in our denominator. So anything that makes our denominator of 0, well, if that's a problem right there, if that's 0, so x can't be 0. And then we've got this one. Well, that's 0 if x is negative 3, so x can't be negative 3. And those are your two restrictions, okay? There's one example. I'm going to put this third example in another video just to keep these videos shorter and more compact so they don't take forever to load. So watch that one. I highly recommend that you do. Yeah.